Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Rajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Rajajanaranjana Yamunatira Vanashahari Yamunatira Vanashahari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Raja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Rajajanaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayom Vishnupada Prahamsa Parijakacharya Sotashata Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayom Vishnupada Prahamsa Parijakacharya Sotashata Sri Srimad, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Kantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Brahmanande Hari Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 5, titled Prahlad Maharaj, the saintly son of Hiranyakashipu. Text number 13. Saesha Atma Swaparatya Buddhibhir Duratya Yanu Kramano Nirupyate Muhyanti Yad Vartmani Vedavadino Pramadayo Yesha Binati Me Matim Sa Esha Atma Swaparetya Buddhibir Duratya Yanu Kramano Nirupyate Muyanti Yad Vartmani Vedavadino Brahmadayo Yesha Binati Me Matim Sai Esha Atma Swaparetya Buddhibir Duratya Yanu Kramano Nirupyate Muyanti Yad Vartmani Vedavadino Brahmaryo He Ishta Binati Me Mati Sa He Isha This Atma Supersoul situated in everyone's heart. Swapara This is my own business, and that is someone else's. E.T. Thus. Abud bihi. By those who have such bad intelligence. Durat yaya. Very difficult to follow. Anukramana. Whose devotional service. Nirupyate. Is ascertained by scriptures or the instructions of the spiritual master. Muyanti. Are bewildered. Yat. By whom? Vartmani, on the path. Vedavani, Vedavadina, the followers of Vedic instructions. Brahma Adya, the demigods, beginning from Lord Brahma. He, indeed, Esha, this one. Binati, changes, my, Matim, intelligence. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Persons who always think in terms of enemy and friend are unable to ascertain the supersoul within themselves. Not to speak of them, even such exalted persons as Lord Brahma, who are fully conversant with the Vedic literature, are sometimes bewildered in following the principles of devotional service. The same Supreme Personality of Godhead who has created the situation has certainly given me the intelligence to take the side of your so-called enemy. Report. Prahlad Maharaj admitted frankly, my dear teachers, you wrongly think that Lord Vishnu is your enemy, but because he is favorable towards me, I understand that he is the friend of everyone. You may think that I have taken the side of your enemy, but factually he has bestowed a great favor upon me. Om Aganatamandasya Ginanjana Shlakaya Chakshulatamyana Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we are reading here that Prahlad Maharaj is continuing his discussion or his response to the teachings of his basically Gurukul teachers of Sanda and Amarka, of friends and enemies. Of course, Prahlad was the son of Hiranyakashipu, who is emperor of the universe. And uh, rulers in particular, and of course everybody, but rulers in particular, tend to think in terms of friends and enemies. That they have to think of those who will try to take their power, those that it will help them, and thus they teach their children out of a sense of um, actual affection or goodwill towards them, to think in the same way, so that the thought is you will take up this role after me. So you also have to be conversant with the principles of rulership. So they teach them in that way. And there are so many uh, teachings in the history of the world about how rulers uh, may properly rule. Of course, one of the most famous ones in the West, at least, is Machiavelli's The Prince, where he said that it's better to be feared than to be loved. That is the proper way to mm, rule a city, country, empire, whatever one happens to find themselves in charge of. And this is emblematic of all such teachings that goes into uh, instructing the next generation of rulers how to rule. That you always have to think in terms of this person is favorable towards me, he will help me achieve my goals, so therefore he is my friend, and that person is unfavorable towards me, that he has taken some action against me or insulted me or is vying for my position, and therefore he is my enemy. Prahlad Maharaj, however, did not like to see things on these terms. That devotee actually views everyone as his friend. The devotee is known as the friend of all living entities, not just humans, but actually all living entities. Now, I was reading this article the other day by this philosopher, some philosophy professor from England. And he was talking about uh, this Greek thinker, um, Empocles or something. I do not remember the name exactly. Uh, but this Greek thinker's philosophy is that we should extend our circle of concern, our community, beyond past humans and even into, the animals and the plants as well. And it was presented as, this big radical change of thought. That's, oh, if we take this up, then, it'll be such a good thing for the world, and that it, mm, will show, all right, will allow us to be magnanimous and considerate of all life. And it was presented as, this radical idea that nobody could ever think of, and uh, that it would be game changing for philosophy to actually think in this way. But when I was reading the article, I was thinking, that's the basic instruction of the um, Vedic worldview of the Vedas, that not just humans, but animals and plants as well are also objects of moral consideration, is kind of the basics. Uh, it's kind of so basic to the Vedic worldview. It doesn't even need to be frequently talked about. Uh, so this is actually the view of the devotee, that everyone is my friend, that all living entities uh, are beings that I want the good of. Because that is ultimately what is meant by the term friend, the opposite of which is meant by the term enemy. Is that when we view somebody as uh, wanting bad for us, we view them as an enemy. And when we view them as wanting good for us, we view them as a friend. The issue is that we are conditioned. We are very heavily covered over by the modes of material nature. And therefore, we view friends and enemies in terms of sense gratification. That if I see this person and they are not helping me with my sense gratification, or they are actively working against my sense gratification. Maybe they, uh, you know, they're going for the same job that I want, or we are both vying for the same partner, or whether it is actually the case or not. I believe that, that group of people is trying to attack or destroy my group of people. Then I think of these uh, people as enemies. And if people are good for my sense gratification, maybe they help me out financially, or, we party together, or something like that. Somehow or other, they please my senses, then they are my friend. So actually, this whole idea, this whole mentality of friends and enemies is simply extended selfishness. That everything, that the entire concept is basically just how does it relate to me? But because the devotee is actually unselfish, that they do not think in terms of their own sense gratification, they're able to move past this dichotomy of friends and enemies. That the devotee is able to see everyone as part and parcel of Krishna. And so seeks to bring everyone back to the fold of devotional service, which is the greatest form of friendship. Because unless one takes up seriously unalloyed devotional service, one will have to stay in material nature. So the Vedas have so many different processes. There's uh, processes for living mm, favorably on this planet, for ascending to higher planets, for merging into the Brahman effulgence. But as we were reading during the Bhagavad Gita recitation last night, uh, such paths are for men of small intelligence. Those who are actually intelligent take up the bhakti parts of the Vedic literature, because that is actually able to restore one to one's constitutional position. That by engaging people in anything else other than uh, pure Krishna consciousness, whether that is the Vedic processes of karma or jnana, or even mundane welfare work for feeding the poor or social justice or this or that. One is actually doing harm to the people that one engages in that way, because one is entangling them more in the material energy. To actually be a friend of all living entities means to engage them in devotional service, which is actually the goal of life, and will give one the uh, greatest benefit. However, those who are against devotional service view those trying to engage others in this way as an enemy, and sometimes also view the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself as an enemy. This is somewhat prevalent today in the atheistic propaganda that is mm, widely disseminated in the society. Of course, the atheists don't actually have any good philosophy, but because of propaganda, it is presented that the atheistic worldview is the one that is scientific or rational. This way, people come to view devotees and Krishna as their enemy. I've met people before, and I've seen people, talk about these things that where they say, even if God exists, I would not worship him, because they don't like the fact uh, that God punishes people. That, oh, if there is a God, then he's just all love and he is open to everybody, and he wouldn't make it so that people are punished. Uh, of course, usually these people, if something happens to them, they want the perpetrator to be punished. Uh, but in their own pursuance of sense gratification, they want to be able to do anything and everything without consequence. And ultimately, this is what it comes down to. That those who find enmity with the Supreme Personality of Godhead do so because they wish to enjoy their senses. The standard of sense gratification is the standard of the material world. But if there is a supreme being, if there's a supreme controller, then that puts a damper on our pursuit of sense gratification. Hmm. And gives the possibility of a moral law, of a lawgiver above us that tells us what is proper and improper action, so that we can't just take whatever activity or whatever action we think will make us happy. Of course, they won't actually make us happy if we are against the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Uh, Nobody in the history of the universe has ever become happy by sense gratification. But still, people try in new and different ways. Uh, in traditional cultures, even in traditional Western culture, people have tried this by some sort of religious sense gratification that, oh, we'll pursue our goals, but uh, we'll have some sense of decorum, of uh, culture in pursuing our sense gratification. Uh, and we see today that because the material world, the law of the material world is gravity, everything just goes down. The standard keeps on going down and down and down more. And it will continue to do so through the course of Kali Yuga, which still has a long way to go before it's over. So we should uh, change this enmity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to friendship. It is our task to explain the process of devotional service to everyone. Lord Chaitanya gives us the order to whoever we go and whoever we meet, explain the science of Krishna. And in this way, uh, become actual friends to everybody, to actually want their true benefit and that we should perform the true welfare work of uh, trying to engage everyone in the devotional service of Krishna. So that's about all that I have. Sorry if it was a bit all over the place. I learned I was giving class today 3 minutes before 7. So hopefully people have uh, comments or questions to fill the time until we greet the deities.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Haribol.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you for a very nice class. I appreciate your analysis of um, the uh, the process by which one conceives of other individuals as friend or enemy based upon sense gratification. this central principle for the materialist. Um, and I thought I would also offer a point of refinement regarding the consciousness, the mentality of a devotee who is able to regard everyone as friend. This is an extraordinary thing, and it's really the realm of extremely advanced devotees. This is an Uttama Adhikari um, was able to see everyone as simply a servant of Krishna without any consideration of how that individual may be affecting themselves positively or negatively. Um, and as you described, because, they're not thinking in terms of sense gratification, but if, for example, some crazed fellow were to come into our temple room and start randomly shooting at devotees, which is not far-fetched. These things are happening nowadays. People are going into churches and shooting up people. Um, it would, based upon the teachings of our acharyas, it would not be appropriate to simply regard that fellow as a friend. Um, we might understand that he is also ultimately a devotee of Krishna who is somehow or other covered over and misguided, um, but it is appropriate under certain circumstances to treat an aggressor as an enemy. Um, and so this is um, a distinction that is had by the Vaishnavas, that while we have this very lofty understanding, and a devotee is able to elevate himself to the topmost platform of being able to regard all others as friend, simultaneously, um, a Vaishnava may retain um, the ability to descend to the platform of making relative judgments, which is the Madhyama platform, for the sake of preaching or propagating Krishna consciousness. Um, the situation for the Uttama Adhikari is that, from his perspective, he genuinely sees everyone as Krishna's servant, and so there is no need to preach to them because he sees them as being already engaged in devotional service. And in fact, he sees everyone as a pure devotee except himself. And so such an advanced devotee may, if he chooses, descend to the Madhyama platform in order to preach. From that platform, then he makes distinctions between who is in Krishna consciousness or in Maya, for example. Other types of distinctions are made as well. And so an aggressor is not regarded necessarily as a friend exactly by a Madhyama. He will take appropriate action to defend himself or other devotees or the deities, the cows, or whatever the case may be. He doesn't simply welcome an aggressor with open arms. An Uttama Adhikari might choose to do such a thing, but on the other hand, he might choose to descend to the Madhyama platform and make the distinction between who is friend and who is enemy, because from that perspective, from that platform, there are friends and enemies. A devotee may have enemies. There may be those who want to do harm to devotees. That happens. Um, in in other religious systems, there is, as far as I have seen, there is not the concept of voluntarily moving between these different um, platforms of consciousness. The concepts tend to be much more simple. In Christianity, for example, Christianity is a little confusing because the Bible and even Jesus himself appears to teach both mundane piety and also um, uh, transcendental devotional service. And Christians don't understand the distinction between those two. They conflate them. Um, but there is the concept um, of turning the other cheek. Uh, when Krishna directs his followers towards this kind of consciousness, he is preaching um, the highest platform of Krishna consciousness, elevating oneself to the platform of an Uttama Adhikari. Um, but there is no, as far as I have seen, the Bible makes no reference to descending from that platform to the Madhyama platform. There are, however, um, biblical statements that talk about being defensive in various circumstances. Um, so both sides are given, but it's not made clear. It is uniquely Vaishnava Siddhanta that explains clearly the delineation between these platforms of consciousness and how they can interact, how one can actually move between them, not just ascend to the topmost platform, but even return back to the platform of making distinctions. It's an extraordinary thing. Um, but preachers of Krishna consciousness means our entire lineage of acharyas are all uttamas who have chosen to act from the Madhyama platform for the sake of preaching. Because there is no preaching from the platform of an Uttama Adhikari. He may preach uh, inadvertently by his example of pure Krishna consciousness, but it's not his intention. Um, from his perspective, he he has no incentive, no motivation to preach to others because he sees clearly from his perspective, everyone but him is engaged purely in devotional service. This is hard to imagine for anyone who hasn't actually experienced that platform of consciousness. But there is such a platform of consciousness where one actually sees, because everyone is in fact engaged in Krishna's service, either directly or indirectly, either directly or through the agency of the material nature. But an Uttama Adhikari he sees everything as absolute. All he sees is that that individual is engaged in devotional service in all kinds of extraordinary ways. And so he regards everyone as a pure devotee. Everyone becomes his teacher. He sees Krishna in everyone and everything, even inanimate objects. He sees Krishna everywhere, and he learns from everything. Krishna actually teaches him through everything, and so he always remains very humble and submissive, and he it is inconceivable to him that he would be preaching to others because he sees himself only as fit to learn from others. Um, anyway, uh, I thought I would offer a few words about that. It's a subject that fascinates me. Thank you again for a wonderful class. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for your comments, Prabhu. Yeah, this distinction between the Uttama and Madhya platforms that we can understand that actually we're everyone's friend, but act in externally in terms of friends and enemies. It's a very elevated platform to actually see everybody as and everything as serving Krishna. Uh, are there any other comments or questions from anybody?
Thanks for class. Thanks for bailing me out.
No problem.
I was thinking how to reconcile. I mean, I didn't study Gandhi's movement. I just probably heard a few things here and there, but it seems like his nonviolent resistance movement, where, for example, he said, if someone slaps you, offer him the other cheek to slap also.
Mhm.
So, how can we as devotees, I guess, navigate the complexity of day-to-day life, because it seems like we can easily confuse humility, because that was kind of like seen as a sign of humility. Okay, here's my other cheek if you want to slap it too. um, Based on this discussion of friends and enemies, um, it seems like it can become difficult to navigate uh, friends and enemies versus humble and not being humble. Maybe it's related to what Tarika Prabhu was mentioning, but how to make sense of these confusing points.
Right. So my first thought on this matter would be that when it comes to ourselves, we don't we can take the position, because when it comes to ourselves, we can take the position of turning the other cheek. Uh, right. So, if somebody does something to me personally, maybe insults me or something like that, then, uh, I can just say, yeah, you're right. I am bad in that way, and I'm bad in these other ways too. Turning the other cheek like that. But when it comes to uh, these people impeding the devotional service that ourselves or others are rendering, then it's time to fight back. And actually, that fighting back is also humility. It's not, when Hanuman was burning Lanka, it's not like, he was being, proud or envious or anything like that. No, he was doing it as service to Sitaram. And so it was, actual humility. In Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada defines humility as not being eager for the praise from others, or something like that. And uh, which, doesn't even talk about not actually being praised by others, just not being eager for it. So actually acting on the platform of humility means to do what's best for Krishna's service. I can be vilified or valorized, attacked or defended, but I will always stand by Krishna and Srila Prabhupada. That is actual humility. That, okay, the world might like our message, dislike our message, but we can't abandon it in order to satisfy others. So we are not, nonviolent like the Gandhi movement uh, or the other such movements that he inspired. Uh, yeah, that's not our process. Our process is we fight for Krishna, just like Arjuna did. That, if Krishna says be nonviolent, then we're nonviolent. And if Krishna says fight, then we fight. Our humility comes from being subservient to the orders and the desire of the spiritual master. That we aren't fighting or being peaceful on our own terms, uh, but uh, instead doing so uh, according to the directions of Shastra. Now, speaking of um, Gandhi, reminds me of actually he was being interviewed one time by some reporter, and the reporter said, "Okay, your whole thing is absolute nonviolence, to never become violent towards uh, anybody else." And this reporter asked, okay, you walk into, say you have your family and you walk into a house one day and your daughter is being raped. Would you become violent towards the rapist? Uh, and Gandhi actually said no. That he said, my philosophy is absolute nonviolence. You never become violent towards anyone. And the reporter said, actually, that is violence. That refusing to intervene towards an aggressor is violence. And we can also add that that is pridefulness. That, to be so self-absorbed in one's own ideas, one's own material philosophy, that one does not actually take proper action is pridefulness, even if externally it might seem like humility. So we should take what these definitions, these ideas, pride, humility, welfare work, etc. We should take the definitions actually as they are meant by Guru Sadhu and Shastra, and not by material estimation, which is just on the platform of sense gratification. So that's my thoughts on that question.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we have about 8 minutes left. If anybody wants to add anything. Okay, going once, going twice. Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Hare Krishna,